Hello guys, this is TRC Mbogwo and welcome back to another episode of Tipping the Scale, where we are all about being the best version of ourselves that we can be and tipping the scale of our lives to a more positive aspect. So let us dive in, let us do this and let us tune you in so that we can find out what today's episode is all about. So again guys, welcome as we walk towards that better version of ourselves. Today I will start you off with a quote by Mariam Hasna, and I hope I am pronouncing that name right. And she says that it is beautiful to have a practice of looking at ourselves and examining what needs to grow within us. But do not let this inner work turn into just another way of beating yourself up. So how is it that inner work, how is it that self-development and personal growth can turn into just another toxic form for us to beat ourselves up? This is by chasing perfection, and that is what we are looking at today. So again guys, welcome to Tipping the Scale. So as we look at ourselves and examine what needs to grow within us, sometimes the inner work, the development, the growth can turn into just another form for us to beat ourselves up. And this happens when we chase a certain form of perfection. Because sometimes with the best intentions at heart, we tend to put ourselves up for very high standards. But as we do this, we end up doing more harm than good. So how is it that we get to a point of putting such high standards for ourselves, chasing perfection to an extent it becomes toxic for us? So it all begins in a somewhat subconscious need to be good enough. In our minds, we build this image of what perfection is and what perfection should be and what perfection should look like. And then we expect ourselves to live up in accordance to this mental image, as this is what we believe we should be. And this is the image that we use to judge ourselves and to judge others around us. So once we see that we do not fit into this image of perfection, into our own mental image of what perfection is, then we start judging ourselves. We feel frustrated and we start beating ourselves up about it. We feel like we are not good enough, but not good enough for other people, but also good enough for ourselves. And this is a concept that is delved in deeper in the book, The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, which is a profound piece of work. And he talks about how from an early age, out of a fear of not being accepted, of not being good enough, we form an image of what perfection is so that we feel like we are good enough, but we never really get to that image. We never really get to being that person, because at first the image itself is a mind-made illusion that we create from external expectations. And what it means by create from external expectations is because this image, this illusion that we create in our head, we create it in accordance to external figures. And this can be our parents, our teachers, our religions, our spiritual leaders, our political leaders, our guardians, people who inspire us and people we aspire to be like, just basically society. We build this illusion, this image of perfection in accordance to other people and their points of view. And that is why we never really get to be that person, because we are going against ourselves. But we never stop blindly chasing this image, subconsciously chasing this form of perfection, as we believe that this is how we should be or look like, or this is how we should act. So when you are trying to make a certain change in your life, if you're trying to better yourself, you will have this image that you will create in your mind subconsciously, and you will put it high up on a pedestal, and this will be your main point of focus. Your main point of focus will be to be that person, to be that perfect person that you have placed high up on a pedestal, to be that mind-made illusion of perfection that you have created. And so once we focus so much on this image of perfection, we do more harm than we do good. Once you set up yourself up for these extremely high standards, you do more harm than you do good. But I'm not asking you to lower your standards. What I am asking you to do is stop focusing on perfection. We shouldn't really be focusing on perfection, but rather we should be focusing on transformation. Because focusing so much on perfection, that compulsive need to be that perfect person tends to consume you, and any minute or moment that you see yourself not being that perfect person, you start judging yourself, you start beating yourself about it. Self-rejection creeps in, and the more you judge yourself and beat yourself up about it, you drift further and further from the truth. But if our main point of focus is transformation, you are easier and kinder with yourself because you realize that this is a process. You have a sense of total embrace and complete acceptance of where you are, as you equally acknowledge the progress that you are making. And with this in mind, you will tend to do your best at all moments, also realizing that your best will vary from moment to moment. So with this, you will appreciate every minor milestone that comes along your way. You will be patient with yourself. Focusing on transformation, this shift and this kind of mental attitude propels you further into that better version of yourself, because you shift from beating yourself up about not being perfect to being kinder with yourself and focusing on transforming. The best way I can explain this is by giving an analogy. Let's say that which you're trying to better yourself in is your physical form. And you want to, this means working on your body. Maybe your goal is getting like some lean and rock hard abs. So you will have this image of what you should be like, or rather what you believe you should look like, what your abs should look like, what you should do. That image of perfection. You will create this image probably in comparison to someone else. And this is what I meant by the image is created in accordance to external figures and external expectations. So you'll create this image of what perfection is in comparison to someone else, maybe someone who inspires you, or an IG model you saw somewhere, or a fitness trainer, just something external. And as you start, this image is your main point of focus, and you'll be psyched about this, you'll put in the work, and you'll work out knowing, you know what, I'm going to look like that. So 1 month in, 1.5 months in, when you look in the mirror, you still do not look like that image of perfection that you have at the back of your head. And being that image of perfection is your main point of focus, as you look in the mirror, what you will see is less than perfection. And this is when you start feeling bad. You start feeling frustrated. You start feeling unaccomplished. Like maybe you are not doing enough. And in that moment, you get this idea, you know what, maybe I'm not doing enough. Let me go even harder at it. You put in more hours of workout. You eat less. You starve yourself. You outdo yourself. But every single time you look in the mirror, what you will see is less than perfection, because your main point of focus is to be that perfect person. So you will not even realize the subtle changes that are there. You will just see less than perfection. You start beating yourself up, feeling like all the work you've been putting in is void. Self-rejection creeps in, and slowly, you do not have any motivation to keep going, because you feel shitty, you feel frustrated, you feel unaccomplished. And so eventually you end up giving up on this endeavor. And this endeavor, not specifically the workout, but whatever it is that you're trying to better yourself in. Let's take the same exact scenario, but a different approach. You still have that mental image in your head, you're still working on your body. But now your point of focus here is not that image of perfection, but rather your point of focus here is the transformation that you will make. The transformation that you will see in your body. The transformation that your body will go through. So, as you start any subtle change that will be there, you will notice it, because you acknowledge that this is a process, that you're doing this one step at a time. And so whenever an exercise becomes easier for you, you notice and you acknowledge this as progress and you appreciate it. When your formation becomes better in the workout, you can do burpees better, you can hold a plank better, you can do your squats with better form. You notice, you appreciate the progress, you acknowledge the progress, and you equally appreciate the progress. When your clothes start fitting differently, you will notice, acknowledge the progress, and appreciate. And this way you are easier and kinder with yourself, because you have a full acceptance and embrace of where you are, and you are acknowledging your progress. 1 month in, 1.5 months in, when you look in the mirror, unlike the first approach, what you will see is not less than perfection, but what you will see is the transformation that is going on. Those subtle changes in your body, your definition becoming better. And this way, you'll be easier with yourself. You won't be so hard on yourself. When you feel like you need to rest, you will allow yourself to rest because you're being patient with yourself and you're enjoying this process. This kind of fuels you and motivates you to go even further with your journey, with your endeavor, within your transformation, and you grow more confident within yourself. But for most of us, in most cases in life, we tend to take the first approach. We have the best intentions of making a change, of being better, but we make it detrimental to us by expecting ourselves to be perfect within no time. Whilst this image of perfection is not really and truly aligned with us, rather it's a facade that we build out of external expectations of other people and other people's points of view. And I have fallen into this trap so many times. Like when I started intentionally focusing on my growth and my personal development, I had all these teachers who inspired me and I aspired to be like. And I took fragments from each of these teachers and made up this image of what perfect me should look like. Of that, the fact that now I'm on this journey, this is what I should be and this is how I should be acting. And I wanted to be that perfect TRC that I placed high up on a pedestal in my subconscious mind. And I was outdoing myself, chasing this image of perfection, trying to be that person so hard, literally forming internal conflict within myself and resistance because I was going against myself. Eventually, I ended up crashing, having like a full-blown mental, emotional breakdown. Because I kept comparing myself with this image. And whenever I did that, I kept feeling like I was not doing enough, I was not achieving, I was not accomplishing, I was not growing enough. But in retrospect to everything, if I just took a moment to breathe and look at the transformation I had made, I would have realized that I was actually doing good. I was and I still am making significant progress, just not giving myself enough credit about it. And most of us tend to do this. So whatever it is that you're trying to better, that you're trying to change, observe if you have that false image of perfection that you hold yourself accountable for, and dissolve this illusion by shifting your perspective from focusing on transformation from focusing on perfection to focusing on transformation. Tip your scale from focusing on perfection to focusing on transformation, on the growth. And this shift in perspective will also aid you in being more authentic and unique within yourself, because now you will not only be comparing yourself with these external figures, with these other people, but rather you will find your own unique set point, what is aligned with you, and what your own unique view of that which they're expressing that you admire to be like. With this complete acceptance and embrace of where we are, we realize that we are good as we are, and congratulations for wanting to make a change. But now, focus on transformation. Be patient with thyself because you get there with a ladder. You need to give yourself some credit and acknowledge the progress that you are making. And when you need to catch a breath and cut yourself some slack, appreciate the most subtle of changes that you see. This way, the process becomes even more enjoyable and easier for you to move further as you watch yourself transform. You grow more confident, you grow more authentic within yourself. Adopt that concept of being a friend to yourself. That we looked at this concept in my episode on self-love and being your own bae. This is the time you be your own bae. You be your own supportive friend. You clap for yourself. You acknowledge the progress that you're making and give yourself some credit for it. This is the time you allow yourself the luxury of being kind to yourself. Dissolve that image of perfection completely from your mind and realize that perfection is more of a futile change, but transformation is utterly and completely possible. This way you won't be so hard on yourself. You'll be easier with yourself. The transformation and the process gets easier and easier. And as you keep acknowledging the progress that you are making, you are going to keep going. You're going to keep growing. And before you can deny all this, I will just urge you to try it. And that is all for today, guys. So remember to share this, and just remember to be patient with yourself and focus on your transformation, because transformation is utterly and completely possible. I will see you guys in the next episode, and thank you so much for tuning in and for all that we have said today. Before you can deny it, just try it.